Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest in the interview series on Back of the Net. Once again, we appreciate all your support and comments on our recent interviews, and we certainly hope to run some more over the next weeks. Right, remember to subscribe to this channel and get advanced notifications of our next shows. So, last week we had part one of Ted MacDougall. This week, amazingly, it's part two. Neil, you're joining me for the sequel.
The sequel, yeah, Return of the Ted. I hope you've laundered that T-shirt, or have you worn it all week?
It's unwashed. It's unwashed. I just thought I can't possibly change it. It was such a great interview. It's my lucky T-shirt for the TED interview. So yeah, looking forward to this, aren't you?
Yeah, good. Just get it washed before Valentine's Day. You'll be all right.
Thanks for that, mate. So here we are. Ted MacDougall, the greatest goal scorer, certainly that I can remember. And Ted, welcome to the show. How are you doing? You all right?
I'm all right. How are you doing, boys?
Yeah, we're great. We're good. We're good. So I'm going to kick you off with the move from West Ham to Norwich. Now, you weren't really known as an aggressive, confrontational type of player, not to me anyway, but something happened at West Ham that made you leave for Norwich. Go on, tell us about that story.
Well, it was a culmination of things, but it was a bit of there was a few clicks within the club, and we weren't doing particularly well. We were playing Leeds at Leeds when they had the full team out. Billy Bremner, Jack Charlton, Norman Hunter, the usual team, and we were getting beat. So I took the kick off. We were getting beat 3-0, I think, and I took the kick off from one of the goals, and then Billy Bonds had a go at me on the pitch, and I just said, I just said piss off and just let him meander. And then at half time, nothing said. We ended up getting beat 4-1. I got the goal, so that was all right. And then I'm in the shower, and then that's when they had the big bath. And I'm washing my hair, and he comes in the big bath with all the other players, and he starts to chunter again. And I just said, look, I said, you got something to say, do something about it. So he took one step forward, and I retaliated first. I always think it's best to retaliate first. And so, I hit him across the chest, and he fell back in the bath, and all the other lads in the bath grabbed hold of him, thank God. And I wasn't going in the bath because I couldn't swim, so I wasn't going to go near the water. And and then in came John Lyle and Ron Greenwood, so they had my arms behind the back. And I said, that's what's wrong with your so-and-so club. It's full of cliques and blah, blah, blah. And then on the Monday, I was on my way to Norwich. So it's always one way to get a move, I suppose. And so Graham Padding came in exchange. I think it was about 140,000, I think, which included Graham. And I was going back to Norwich with John Bond.
It must have been like a bit of a reunion, because half of the Bournemouth team were there, weren't they? From your days there, was it quite a few people to catch up with? Well,
we were all in the same hotel, and it was like, my God, I think they're going to have to put another block on here for this hotel, because it's like there was loads of us. I mean, there was John Benson and Fred Davies and Kenny and John and Phil and Tony Powell, and oh my goodness, there was a lot. And I mean, at this time, I don't think Bournemouth fans were too happy. Every time they heard the word Norwich, it was like, oh God, they're taking another player. And so it was like a reunion, and it was like business as usual. I remember my first game against Burnley in the Cup, and it was midweek, and I ended up getting 2 goals. So it was like, oh, here we go. This is great. It's like, here we go again. This is great. And it was fantastic. It was fantastic because all these lads were, they were appreciative of what we all could do, and just refreshing to get that again.
But it was quite a tough season, wasn't it? The first part of the season where you joined Norwich, because they got relegated. I mean, it was after Ron Saunders, and he wasn't particularly renowned for his flowing football. So John Bond came in, tried to change the way that the team played halfway through the season. You got relegated, but then that season, back in the what's now the Championship, it kind of all came together again. With Phil Boyer joined you as well, didn't he, for that season on the way back?
Yeah, Phil was there, and I forgot Mel as well. Mel Machin was there as well, and it was fantastic, because it just showed you when you look back in hindsight how good these players were at Bournemouth, who were playing in the 3rd and 4th division with a lot of these lads. How good they were, because they all went on to play in the 1st division or the Premier League as it is now, and all of them did wonderfully well. So I think that's a real thumbs up to how good these lads were.
You got to play in a cup final as well, didn't you? Because you went to the League Cup final in '75. I think Mel Machin made a goal line save, didn't he?
Yeah, that was a bloody disaster. That was. It started off with the green velvet suits and the yellow kipper ties. That wasn't good. It wasn't a good look. And most of us were playing in the game with them on, I think. So it wasn't good, and we got beat, I think 1-0. They got a penalty that was a bit of a scramble, I think I can remember. And I know me and Phil Boyer, we never got a kick, and we never were really in it. But to go out at Wembley with all these lads as well was fantastic. You know, it was really, the atmosphere was fantastic. And I went back 3 months later, I think, for Scotland against England, and we got beat 5-1. So Wembley was great for me.
Yeah. Well, talking about your international career, I mean, you scored on your debut, I think, against Sweden. But why do you think internationally you didn't quite take off at the time?
I did take off. That's the problem. What happened? This is a true story, which is typical. It used to be like I put my foot in my mouth so many times that I got myself in bother. That it was a time when I was playing, because I was getting to an age where I didn't want to stop. I didn't want to have like 2 months off in the summer or whatever and just, pig out, and it took like 2 months to get fit again. So I went, one year I went to South Africa for 6 weeks in the summer. Another year I went to Canada and played over in Edmonton. And then another year I went to the States, and it kept me going. So by the time I came back, I was flying. And so that was a good thing. And what was the question again? I can't remember what you said.
I was just talking about playing for Scotland, because you played a few games, but not as many as perhaps you should have done.
Right. So let me tell you the story then. What happened was, it was January or February, and I'm at the training ground at Norwich, and there was a local reporter there, no axe to grind, just a regular lad who did his job for the Norwich paper. And he said, "Well, are you going to go up with Scotland in the spring or something?" And I said, "I don't think so." I said, "I don't know." I said, "I'm tired." I said, "I kind of need a bit of a break. I've not had a break because what I just mentioned." And then I said, "Anyway," I said, "Scotland, it's a bit of a joke anyway." I said, the press picked the team, and so, oh my God. By the time I'd finished training, it was all over everything. It was all over the national papers up in Scotland. "You're a traitor. We don't need you." And I love playing for Scotland, but I hated the way that we were made to feel second citizens. And I'm talking about the players. And we had terrific men. We had Graham Souness. We had Kenny Dalglish, and lots of other very talented players. But it was all about it was like some sort of junket. When I went to Sweden first, like all these kind of people from all these little clubs would get on the plane, and then we would get the finger, "Oh yeah, come on now, you can get in," as if we were like it was a junket for them. It was just a trip to have, to get drunk and stuff. And the football was immaterial. and you were made to feel that way a little bit. And then I scored, because I said to him, I said, look, I said, if I'm playing for Scotland and I'm scoring, you should be picking me. And if I don't score, then don't pick me. I mean, I pretty much put them on the line. And then I went and played against, got another one against Northern Ireland in the home internationals, where we won 1-0 at Hampden. And I got another one against Denmark, and then I got another one, I think, against Portugal, I think, something like that. And so I was doing all right, and then that happened, and that was the end of that. I mean, the story, that's a good story with when we got beat 5-1 by England, and it was the manager was Willie Ormond, and we used to call him Wee Willie Ormond. And so it was him, and he had a couple of trainers. One was called Huey, and another guy, and he had a little doctor from Celtic. So we used to sing the song, it's Huey and Ronnie and the wee Doc and Donnie. That was the song we used to sing. And so anyway, the team talk was, this is the time when I think it was Don Revy was in charge of them. They had a good team. Bawley was playing, and Shannon and all these lads. And his team talk was on the Friday. We were staying away. We'd been away for 10 days, and because it was the home internationals. And he said, right, lads, I want you to get bloody stuck in tomorrow. Get up their bloody arses. These fans are having to walk to the game because they cancel all the trains and the tubes and stuff. So give them something to shout about. So he said that twice to make it look longer. And then he said, all the best. And then he said, are there any questions? And Sandy Jardine was the captain, and he said, aye, boss. The lads would like to know, when are we getting our expense sheets? that was the team talk that we got beat 5-1. So it wasn't it was fantastic to play. I was very proud to play for Scotland. Very proud for my mum and dad and all the other people that I knew up in Inverness and stuff. It was fantastic, but it was majorly disappointing from there. It wasn't professional at all, and it was just disappointing. So that was another one. So like I say, I went to Wembley twice and never got a kick really in the 2 games.
It was, what you're talking about reminds me of when Roy Keane used to talk about going away with Ireland. He had very similar views about, how it was a trip for the dignitaries and the football was secondary. So it's interesting hearing you say the same about Scotland. So back to a club career, your next move was to Southampton, Laurie McMenemy, and a promotion season. How did the move come about, and how was your time there?
Well, to finish off the Norwich one, I mean, I had 3 great years at Norwich, but I mean, it's not a problem, but it's one of the situations about Norwich. It's geographically, you're out there on the limb. It takes hours to get anywhere. And it's a fantastic place, and the people are really, really special. And I liked where I lived, and I liked the thing. But I had businesses in Bournemouth and stuff, and I just wanted to get back to Bournemouth. It was like I was missing it so much, and I just found that it was playing on me and mentally. And I said to John Bond, I said, if I can't go, I didn't know I was going to go to Southampton. I said I need to leave. I said because either that I'm going to quit and retire. I said I can't handle this much more. And so anyway, he let me go for £50,000, which was really, really cheap because I was the top goal scorer in the Premier League that year, the first division. Mm-hmm. A golden boot, although I never got a golden boot. I just didn't even get a golden handshake. So I think I got a golden shower. I think that's all I got. I think. And anyway, he did the deal with Laurie, and I went down to see Laurie, and Laurie was fantastic. And then he, a couple of months later, resigned, because at that time they just won the cup, Southampton, in I think it was '76.
That's right, Bobby Stokes. I remember.
Yeah, but they were so annoying, because it was now like, I don't know, September or whatever times it was, and they were still parading the cup round Southampton and stuff. I said, "Are we ever going to drop? We're near the bottom of the league." And I said, "Can you put this cup away?" You know, I mean, I wasn't involved in it anyway, but at the end of the day, it was like, "Come on, this is too much." And he had Osgood and all these lads, and then he bought a masterly buy in Alan Ball, and he got Alan for 50,000 because he had a falling out, I think, at Arsenal. Something went on there, I think. So he got Alan as well. Well, Alan completely changed the whole structure, the whole club, the whole team. It was like, it was all about, come on, we got to get this going and get this winning, and still having fun and still enjoying it. And he got the best out of Big Ozzy, and he got the best out of Shannon when Mickey was there, and it was phenomenal. And we just missed out, I think, that year. And then, you know, I think I got about 25 goals. It was so easy. I mean, Peter Osgood used to call me the magnet, because all I did was stick close to him. See, I had Phil Boyer before, and Phil Boyer would do all the running. Now Osgood did all the touches and just knocked everybody about, and I just got all the bits and pieces around him. It was fantastic. And then Shannon went, and then once again I came to Charlie Boyer's rescue, and because he was on his way to, I'm not sure it was QPR or somewhere, and I phoned him up and I said, "You got to get your ass down here," and needless to say, he did. And he came, and he was phenomenal, and phenomenal. So I had two of the funniest, happiest years that I had in football at Southampton. Dressing room was magnificent, absolutely magnificent. And as I said last week, a lot of that was down to Laurie and man management, because he was very good at man management. Because he had some really, really pieces of work in that dressing room, that's for sure. You know, from Jim Steele, you know, I mean, God, these lads, wow, it was something else. And I just enjoyed it. It was great. And I was living in Bournemouth and driving through the New Forest every morning, and then driving back after. I was in heaven. And going to sports shops again in the afternoon and see some of the fans and different what have you and stuff, and it was great. It was really good too. Just over 2 years, I think.
I think you and Phil Boyer got 31 goals between you, didn't you? In that was it the 77-78 season? I mean, that was some goal scoring.
He got more than me at that season that we got promoted. I think I got 15, so I think he got a bit more. I might be wrong, but I think he did. I think I ended up getting about 40 goals in 2 seasons, which was okay. But then Phil went on from there to Man City. He got another move again, I think. I mean,
you weren't his agent. You weren't his agent for that one, were you?
No. I said you can go wherever you want, Phil, because you can't help me in the sports shop. So no, it was.
Just going back to the international stuff, did you ever think you were going to get a call from Ali McLeod for the Argentina trip in '78?
No. It was I was out of the scene by then. You know, no. It was I was done and dusted, because it was the time when they had a lot of the kind of the Anglos, and they were anti the Anglos, you know, and so they didn't. You were some sort of kind of semi-traitor if you were an Anglo. Cool. Doesn't seem to matter now. You can spend a long week end up in Scotland now and be Scottish.
So then came the famous return to Bournemouth, so which would have been taking a step down at the time, but obviously you lived in the town, so I guess that had part of the decision-making process. How did that materialise?
I thought. I mean, I was very honest with myself. I think to a degree where I was always maybe overanalyze myself, and I remember playing in that season when we're in the first division or whatever, and I wasn't quite getting there. And I think once you start getting over the 30 and stuff, I don't know whether it's a mental thing or it's always mentioned in the paper, or the veteran or the 31-year-old or whatever, and it's continually mentioned. And I don't know, but it certainly happened to me that you start looking for things. You're looking for that. Well, I used to get that. I used to get on the end of that. And I wasn't, or didn't feel I wasn't. And I was then starting to question myself whether, I really can play at this level anymore. And then I went to see Laurie, the same as John, and I said, I think I might have to move on here. And I think he was a little bit dubious, and I don't think I think he was like, take your time to think this through or whatever. And there was no rush to go or anything. And then John Benson was the manager, so obviously I knew John very well, trusted him, and then and that was it, and then I went for free, and that was a bad move, really, a bad move, because it was about my game was about the players surrounding me and getting the ball in and seeing my movement, because I couldn't beat people. I didn't have the ability to dribble past people and so on, but I could, like I was saying last week, I kind of knew about my angles, and I knew if you get the ball in, with if you can see it. And a lot of these players, they weren't at that level, and they were professional footballers, but mentally and stuff, they weren't at that level, and that was a real issue. And then because John Benson was there, I don't know how long was there, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that, and he was off, and in walks, my God, Alex Stark, here, and just what I needed, and it was a nightmare. And
well, can I just take you back to the John Benson's time, Ted? Because I watched a lot of games at Dean Court in that era, and you scored so many goals. But for me, your greatest goal came in. It was an FA Cup second round replay against Wimbledon. I can close my eyes and see it now. December '78, and you hit those 20-yard left foot volley. Do you remember that goal? Top corner, because the keeper was having a blinder for Wimbledon that day. And I think the winner of that tie would have actually played Southampton. But when you scored that, I mean, I have never seen you score a goal like that in my life, and it was just unbelievable.
I scored one like that, and I'll go through it because I remember it, because that's how because I do remember that goal. I do remember, and I know what end it was at. It was at
the Brighton Beach end. Yeah.
Yes, and the goal I got the first time I scored a goal like that. Well, funnily enough, Norwich were playing West Ham, and we're in the passageway before the game, and John Lyle came up and said, "Oh, how you doing?" And I've gone, "Oh, piss off," and I was talking to Frank Lampard, and I was so wound up, and I went round and I was kicking everybody, and the fans were going mad, and they were going mad at me, and I remember there was because Trevor Brooking, not Trevor Brooking, Martin Peters, bless him. Martin knew a lot of people at West Ham, and he said they're going to throw eggs at you all over the ground when you get towards the edges. And I said, don't be daft. So anyway, rightly, they start throwing these eggs. Anyway, this, out of the corner of my eye, I see, which I think is eggs, and I hit the ground. And it was a flock of birds. It was, I thought it was half a dozen eggs. So anyway, this goal, the ball was played over Mervyn Day. Mervyn Day was in goals. Was the centre half, and it played over his right shoulder, and it's dropping onto my left foot.
Yeah.
And it was about 20 yards out, because I never scored goals outside the box really. And I hit this first time. Well, Mervyn Days, and it's rifled in the upper 90, right in the roof. Well, I've run to the crowd, and they're going absolutely ape shit. I'm like kissing, and all. Oh, they're going mad. And at that time, I walked off, and this woman, somebody poured a cup of tea over my head. Another person grabbing my hair as I'm walking out. And we ended up winning that game. 1-0. And I was making quite well. I said, eggs must be really cheap here in West Ham and stuff, you know. And they were going mad. And that goal that you just relayed at Bournemouth was exactly the same. It was over the guy's right shoulder and coming on across my body onto my left foot, and I've wellied it. And it's just, it could have gone in the sea. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, wow. And that was probably one of the best goals I've scored for Bournemouth.
Yeah, I can still see it. You know, when I'm having dark periods, I close my eyes and think of Ted, Wimbledon, '78.
Yeah, I remember. I didn't know the game. I didn't know what game it was, but I remember the goal.
Brilliant. Your Alex Stock obviously arrived, and you got off to a certainly good start on the pitch with him, because I think we won the first game 7-1, and then you scored in the second game that he was manager as well. Did you take to him? How was he when he first arrived? His approach?
Oh dear me, where do we start? I thought we were only doing 2 of these podcasts. It's like he was a nice man. I mean, I'm not going. I mean, gee whiz, it's not for me to go on, but I mean, the end of the day, it was like he had the suit on. He just thought he was at QPR where he made his name, and I think it was QPR and Fulham, whatever he was. And he had his first team talk, and it's like, oh my goodness me. And he'd say things like, "Right, chaps, we're Bournemouth. We're jolly well going to get stuck in tomorrow." And I'm going, no, please don't tell me I've got this coming now at the end. My goodness me! And it was, he did a formation. What formation we're going to play? But he had us on the pitch, and he had his suit on. But we were all dressed. We didn't have kit on or anything, and he just stood us in lines like 4-4-2 or whatever it was, and then okay, you stay there and you go there. Well, you know, it's the same thing with cones. You know, you see a lot of coaches put cones down on the floor. Well, with all due respect, cones don't move. You know, what happens when they move? Where do you go? And we're all stood there, and he's got his mohair suit on, and talking like this, and it's like real kind of puffy nosed accent and stuff, and it's like, oh no. I mean, Benji tells a story, because he was a kid then, Brian Benjamin, and he was at the club still, and I think they were all off. And he said that he was having this team talk, and he was waiting for me to come in. Everybody else was sat round, and he was saying, "Where's Ted?" And I called it Benji. I don't know. I can't remember that. He said I came in with a gas mask on. So you can make your own mind of what you think of that.
But do you remember that 7-1 game? Because that was on the back of probably there was one of the worst performances I'd seen in that game. We lost when John Benson got fired, sadly, which was the game against Crewe, who were bottom of the league. We lost 1-0 and we're terrible. And then Alex Stock comes in. I mean, it was the definition of a new manager bounce, wasn't it? To go from losing 1-0 at home to the bottom club to winning 7-1. You don't remember that?
I don't remember that 7-1 either.
You scored twice. You scored twice with who was playing? There was a guy from Joey Scott, I think, was partnering you up front, who'd done a lot of stuff in non-league, but he was a sort of fringe player. And it was like every time we touched the ball, it was like we were going to score. It was just an amazing game. Doncaster. And then we followed that up with the 3-1 against Port Vale, and then we drew away the big one against Portsmouth, the 1-1 that following Saturday. So it was like,
really,
all the Bournemouth fans, we all thought, wow, Alex Stock must be a genius, but obviously, clearly not.
Well, where did it all go wrong? I don't know. It's I don't remember that. I really don't. I think I had 10 months there, and it wasn't good. And it was time to go, I think. You know, it's like you say, it's not always great to go back, you know.
True. There was one other special goal that season, where this was in the time when the goalkeepers could roll the ball out to the edge of the area and then kick it from the edge of the area. And there was the ex-Everton goalkeeper, David Lawson, who was playing for Stockport County. There was an attack. You'd fallen behind the corner.
I remember this.
He then rolls the ball out, doesn't see you, sneak up behind him, took the ball off him and scored. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
I laughed so much. It was so funny.
There was another one where a goalkeeper, I did the same, came from behind. The goalkeeper had the ball in his hands, and I punched it out and then smacked it in, and then I'm holding my head as if I'd headed the ball out of his hands. And I got to give a goal. I don't think I would have been any good in VAR.
I remember George Best scored a great goal like that, didn't he? And I think it was disallowed for Northern Ireland. Yeah, he scored a goal for Northern Ireland where he did that. It was disallowed.
But that was George. George couldn't get away with that. Maybe at the lower levels I could. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny. Anyway, Neil,
so
you'll go.
It was on to Blackpool next. So was it a nice departure? Because obviously Bournemouth meant the world to you and you to them. Did it end in an amicable way?
No, it was all that. No, that was always amicable and stuff. I think Stocky was pleased to see the back of me, obviously, because I was like a thorn in his side, and kind of bit of obviously a character within the dressing room, strong character, and not in a good way, and that's one of the reasons why when Alan Ball went to Blackpool, he asked me to go with him, and so he was the player coach. I was a player manager. I was a player coach, first team coach, and I was getting to that time where do I want to stay in this game and stuff, and it was great because I loved Alan and he was infectious and this, that, and the other. But one of the problems was when he got there, he had a contract with Vancouver Whitecaps, and he had to go back the following season. Tony Waiters, Tony signed him on 2 years, and they wouldn't release him to fulfill his contract with Blackpool. So kind of made me like the first team coach stroke manager. Although I had Fred with me, Fred Davies, and Fred and I and stuff. Kind of did a lot of stuff, and it was hard, but it was really, really interesting. And I got more and more away from the playing side because I really enjoyed the kind of the banter with the players. And I remember we had two players. One of them was Peter Noble, and Peter Noble was a really good pro from Burnley, and the other lad was Paul Fletcher, and he was from Bolton, and they'd been around a lot, especially up the north, and they were both playing, and Willie Morgan. Willie Morgan came and was playing, and I got on really, really well with him. But I remember my first confrontation, being in charge, and it was we were all under pressure. So I'm doing like some sort of kind of thing with just keep ball in the middle or something. And according to Nobby, I've like give a wrong decision, so he booted the ball away. And now there's a confrontation between me and him, and all the players are watching. And because he was from the northeast in this lad, and he was going on, you're right, and I'll do you, like, you're well. He was going on and on and on and on, which was great, because for me, he was right in my face. And I've gone, because everybody called him Nobby, I said, Peter. You, Peter. And I've said this about 3 or 4 times. So he had to stop, because I wasn't getting back to him. And then he said, he didn't say it. I said, Peter, you're under pressure. I'm under pressure. We're all under pressure, because we're near the bottom of the league, and we'd have got relegated. And I said, so just go and get the ball. So he went and got the ball, and that was my first confrontation as a kind of coach that was semi in charge, because Alan was in Vancouver. And then I remember the last game of the season, we had to go to Rotherham, and we had to get a result, and we did, and we stayed up, and it was fantastic. I was like crying. It was so emotional. And then at the end of the season, I had something happen to me in my personal life I don't want to go into, and then I left, because I had the pub in the New Forest at this time, near Romsey, and my mum and dad were in there running it for me. And anyway, I quit it all, quit playing everything. I went into the pub, and it was like it's like a not very busy in the daytime, lunch times, and my dad and I are doing some work in there. We're ripping out a fireplace or something, and somebody said, "There's a coach just pulled up in the car park outside." What, a coach? He said, and all these people got out, and it was Alan had brought the team down, who they were on their way to play Exeter or something, and stopped at the pub to have lunch, and come to see me. And they're all trying to get me back on the coach. It was so fantastic. Can you imagine that today? So Alan and all the players, Nobby and Paul Fletcher and all these lads and Willie are like, come on, you've got to get on the coach. We're going down to Exeter to play. Come on. And I'm going, nah, I'm done. I'm done. And that was fantastic. It was really fantastic.
So looking back at your Bournemouth career, you had 198 appearances, 119 goals, which I've worked it out. That was 3 goals every 5 games, which is some record for a goal scorer. And how do you feel looking back on your career at Bournemouth in particular, and what's it like having a stand named after you?
Yeah, well, the stand thing was quite funny, really, because I think it was Neil Voucher phoned me and said, because they were going to play Real Madrid, if you remember that game. That's when they opened the stand, but it was a pre-season game. I think they were in the Championship now, and they played Real Madrid, and Ronaldo was playing and all that kind of stuff. And he said, they want you to be the guest because we're opening the stand. And I said, what stand? He said, well, they named the stand after you. You got a stand. So I said, oh, hell, good. And so I said, wow. So anyway, I went there and they said, oh, it's only a temporary stand. I said, what, did they think I was going to die or something? He said, no. He said, no, but the footings are strong. Oh, okay. We're good to go. The footings are strong. I don't think they had any toilets in it there or anything like that. And that's when the visiting fans went in there originally. And it was pretty emotional. And I did an interview in front of it with Jeff Mostyn, bless him. And it's been special, really, really special. And it was like, I was like pretty emotional about it, you know, and that was something else. And then I remember going to another game and there was a 1 minute silence and I didn't know. And John Kirk had passed away and I didn't know. And I started crying and stuff because Neil was also, I'm so sorry I didn't realise you didn't know. And that was right, really, really, because I thought the world of him as well. And it's a special place, special people. And right now I'm starting to get there.
It is special to all of us. From a career point of view, you started your love affair with America following Blackpool. Obviously, American football was enjoying its first sort of stab at greatness with some fantastic players that were going over there at the time. How did you find it when you first arrived?
Well, no, I went there in '78 originally. And I played for Detroit Express, and we were getting about 30,000. But we played in the Pontiac Silverdome in Detroit, and it held about 90,000. So 30,000 in '90 wasn't that big. And Trevor, God, dear me,
Trevor Francis.
That's it, Trevor.
Right.
Well, Trevor was really quick as hell, and then somebody said to me, and he was the kind of the star player there that they got, and I played him, and Tony Dunn was playing in that same team as well. That was a Manchester United left back, and he was unbelievable. Trevor, he was quick. And somebody said, if you can keep up to him, he said you'll get a lot of goals off him. Well, I did, but he wouldn't pass the bloody ball. So I remember once he got tickets for him and me and the wives, and we went to watch Frank Sinatra live in concert and stuff. And Trevor was a good lad. He was a good guy, and got on well with him. And that was my first inkling of seeing what America was. I kind of loved it. I loved the lifestyle. I loved the kind of way things were, and and kept that in the back of my kind of mind. And then I had the opportunity to come, through Canada, and then of course I knew a lot of people now in the States. Bobby Howe. Bob was big with the US soccer. Out of Chicago, he was a big noise there, and he helped me a lot. And I went on the coaching courses and did my B license, my A license, and my audits and all that kind of stuff. And I met a lot of people. I knew a lot of people. And I remember there was one story which was kind of nice. Norwich had played Fulham in I think it was a quarter-final or the semi-final of the Cup. And the goalkeeper, what was his bloody name now? The blonde-haired lad. He saved my penalty. So it turns out that he comes in for this coaching course, and he's like the assessor, and for this course. And we're in this auditorium. There's about 70 coaches in there, I suppose. And he said, "Oh, Peter Mellor it was, Peter Mellor." And Peter is a good friend of mine. And he said, "Oh, I hear that Ted MacDougall's in the auditorium." So I put my hand up. I said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, hi, Ted." He said, Do you remember when I saved the penalty against Norwich, what you said to me?" So sure it wasn't very complimentary. And so he said, "You called me a Bavarian puff." And I said, "Well, I didn't realize you weren't from Bavaria." So that was my story about Peter Mellor.
So I've got a question here from Keith Brewer. He talks about you always being in the right place in the penalty area to get chances, and it was almost instinctive that you knew where to be. Was that something you talked about your coaching? Was that something you were able to coach that skill into other people?
I think it depends on the player. I think if the player is open-minded, yeah, I think lots of players think they've arrived, especially pros. They think that there's nothing more to be taught or nothing more to learn. They're a little bit closed-minded with it. Some of them haven't got the attention span. Some of them haven't got the intelligence to kind of open up and really digest things that's going to help them. And this is stuff that once you start to move in the box, things happen. If you stand still in the box, you're dead. You're dead, and it's as current now as it was then. No different. The goals are still the same size. You know, I think the defending now is poorer than it was, because defending was to a certain degree an art. Now you can't touch anybody, and you know, now they've got two holding defenders in front of the back four, so that kind of keeps the two defenders. Who are they all marking? I mean, some teams are only playing one up.
Yeah, I mean that brings us.
Think about it.
No, I was going to say that brings us on to a question you kind of half answered it, but from David Cordell. Was you saying, would you have liked to have played in the modern era? I mean, obviously the money would have been nice, but would you have liked to have played in the modern era, or were you glad you played when you did?
No, I would have liked the opportunity to kind of play in the modern era. I mean, you know, I've watched a lot of championship games now. I don't think that's changed as much as, say, the Premier League has changed. I do think that the skill level has got a lot higher. I mean, it doesn't appear to me to be the same degree of people trying to kick lumps out of you.
Okay, Ted. So, thoughts on the current Cherries team and how they're doing in the Championship and all the recent changes there. What's your take on it all?
I think it's on a knife edge. I think I'm hoping that the powers that be at the club will make the right decision and take their time with it. There's about 17 clubs in the Championship. A lot of them have been in. Most of them have been into the Premier League, and never been back. And usually that's because of decisions that's been made by owners or bad decisions on management. So this is a massive call, because this is, as the club moves forward, and we hope it does move forward. Hopefully it'll be with the right person. As for the team, I was pleased to see that we played the two holding midfield players, Pearson and Lerma, the other day. I thought that was good. It's the first time I'd seen it. I'm not saying it hasn't happened before, but it's the first time I saw it. And I thought that worked really, really well. I think there's some players that need to come up to the plate. I think there's, you know, it's going to be touch and go now. Not to get for automatic, but it looks pretty kind of set. The kind of 6 teams that are up there, I can't see that changing that much. But certainly Bournemouth have got to go on a bit of a run now. And Woodgate's done a good job. You can't knock that. He's saying all the right things. Players have obviously stepped it up a little. I think I think they've had a fantastic. I don't think there's any other club I can think of that's had such a weeding out. I mean, there's up to nearly, I think it's up to nearly 17 players have left the club since the summer, and we've only brought in three loans, one short-term contract, and obviously the lad Pearson. I think that's really, really good. I mean, to get that wage bill down, to bring in potentially £80 million to stabilise the club, and still have two players in each position. I thought that was phenomenal. I thought that was, because that's not easy to do, to have that turnover in such a short period of time. So I've got a lot of time for that. I thought that was good.
Were you surprised when Eddie went at the end of the season? Were you surprised with Jason taking over? What were your views on those two moves?
I loved Eddie and Jason. I thought Eddie was burnt out. Bless him. I thought he was. There's a time when you've come to the end of your time, and I think he saw it. But it's not when things go well. It's when things go adversely, and you're that's when you see people in their true colours. It's not when you're winning. It's when you're losing that you see people make decisions, people get uptight, people get fraught. And I just think that there's a finding out about characters, not just Jason, anybody, that when you're winning, things get glossed over and everything's hunky-dory and everything's great. And then when you start to lose, then there's a certain amount of pressure, bills that gets passed on inadvertently to players. Players then they kind of look at themselves and go inward as well. And then we had the issue with the Josh King thing and the deadline and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of things that can affect a dressing room apart from playing performances. And we were playing well, and Jason was doing well up to 17 games. I think we were right up there. And then the kind of wheels started to come off, and that's when you find out if what a person is and what a person can do.
Great stuff. Well, look, Ted, it's been wonderful to have you on again. Thank you so much for sharing all those highlights and great stories with us, and always a legend at Bournemouth, and always will be. So
well, it's a pleasure being on, and as I say, good luck with everything. And as I say, I've turned in from a supporter to a fan. I kind of feel people's pain, and I can feel people's apprehension, and I feel it myself. And I'm looking forward if we can get out with this pandemic and stuff, and then coming back to Bournemouth and seeing everybody, because it'll be, by the time I get over again, it'll be 2 years since I've been back. So, but I'm thinking about you all, and I wish everybody there all the very, very best, and you certainly all deserve it.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Good to see you, Ted.
Thank you.
Thanks,
all the best. All the best. Oh, great stories, Neil?
Wonderful era. Wonderful to reminisce.
Wow. Okay. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that listening back home. I mean, for me, some of the highlights were that egg throwing story at going back on the return to West Ham when he played for Norwich. That was just something else. But yeah. And Alex Stock, who'd have known he was quite so bad?
Or quite so posh?
Or quite so posh, even. Yeah. But look, Neil, thanks very much for joining us. It's been great to have you on as well.
No, loved every minute of it. I'll see you soon, Jeff.
Yeah, see you soon. And for those of you watching, you'll see below, hopefully running below me, are the 3 names of the winners from our MacDougall book competition that we've been running over the last couple of weeks. at the bottom of the screen now. So congratulations to all the winners, and thank you for all the entries, and thanks to our supporters, Pitch Publishing and Neil Vacher, who was also really supportive of this, for getting this together. Neil, thank you, and what a great chat. Thank you, everyone. A lot of thanks here, but thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember to like this video, subscribe, and stay tuned for more AFC Bournemouth content coming up. Up the Cherries.